microphone is on and to speak in to those microphones so that those joining us in the virtual world can participate. I would ask at this time, Trustee Garcia, if you would please convene the Committee on Collective Bargaining.
Thank you, Chair Monville. Will the Committee on Collective Bargaining please come to order? First, unless there are any objections, the meetings of the November 2015 meeting stand approved. We have one action item today. We will also hear public comments before taking any action today. With that, Vice Chancellor Lori Lamb will present the action item for review. Ms. Lamb.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Today's action item is the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 6, the State Employees Trades Council United. This was a full contract negotiation. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that both parties brought constructive proposals to the table, along with arguments to support their positions. The end result of the process is an agreement that we believe both parties can legitimately point to as having made significant improvements in areas of the agreement that they considered to be important. The negotiations were also conducted in a very timely manner. The agreement before you for ratification is a 4-year agreement that would run until June 30th of 2019. The parties agreed that there would be a 2% general salary increase for this fiscal year. This increase will be paid retroactive to July 1, 2015, the same as with our other employee groups. There will be a further 2% increase due on July 1, 2016. Like a number of our other staff units, there is a Me Too provision that is included in order to allow the union to change these amounts in the event that we settle with the California Faculty Association for a higher percentage increase in either of these 2 years only. The parties agreed that either party could elect to reopen on salaries and benefits for fiscal years 2017-18 and or 2018-19. In addition to the economics, the parties also made significant changes to articles relating to union rights, personnel files, appointments, and assignment. The parties also explicitly recognized that there needs to be a full review of the way that employees are classified within the unit, along with issues related to the current salary structure. Both parties expressed a willingness to meet and discuss these important issues during the life of the proposed successor agreement. Staff recommends ratification of the agreement. That concludes my presentation, Chair Garcia.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. So after, what we'll do next is we will hear from our public speakers who wish to address the committee, and then we will take action on the matter before the committee after that. I have a list here of our speakers. If I could ask the following folks to come forward. We have Patrick Choi, Pat Gant, and Loretta Seva Astasi. I'm so sorry. That was awful. And as you're making your way to the podiums, if I could just remind all of our speakers, we do have quite a number of speakers today, and just to be respectful so we get to the benefit of hearing from all of you, if we can stay to the 2 minutes, we would very much appreciate that. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. I'm Patrick Choi, President of Academic Professionals of California, Unit 4. Pleased to announce that we have reached a tentative agreement. We reached the agreement late last year, but after some minor details, we started the contract ratification process. All of our APC members should be receiving their ballots this week. The process should take approximately a couple of weeks, and we're expecting and anticipating a positive outcome, and then therefore afterwards will be up for the board at your March meeting. So I'd like to thank John Swarbrick and the rest of the CSU team working with the APC bargaining team in reaching this tentative agreement, which should run through June 30th, 2017. Congratulations to Unit 6 for reaching their agreement, and certainly we always continue to support all of our brother and sister unions and all together to work towards reaching agreements for everyone. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Pat Gant, President, California State University Employees Union, SEIU Local 2579. Wanted to talk to you today about the need for us to continue our work together like we have the last 2 years on the state budget process. very similar to last year. The CSU's difference between the governor's budget and what the request is just shy of $100 million. In the bigger picture of how the state does its budget and the revenue forecast, it's a very doable number given the rounding of how the state budget comes out and the projections of the revenue that are agreed to in the final stages with the legislature. But it is extremely important that we stay focused on the need to fund the CSU to meet the needs of our students and tomorrow's workforce. In doing so, we need to be united and have labor peace. I'm pleased today to hear about the ratification for our sister unions in SETC and APC, and I eagerly await a similar announcement for the agreement with our sister union, California Faculty Association. We stand in support of all these unions because labor is united.
Loretta Savaitasi, VP for Finance, CSUU. For many years, our members have gone without raises, and in this current contract that we finally have guaranteed general salary increases throughout the life of our contract. And we were also told at the bargaining table that in order for our members to move through the salary ranges that we would have to use the in-range progression or IRP process. And our members have been doing so, and unfortunately, we are running into some problems at some campuses where sometimes our members are prevented from having their IRPs approved, even though funding is available, because the HR department feels they're not entitled or they're not following the process per our contract. So that's kind of disheartening, and I know that my colleague Susan will also speak to this. So please do right by our members and allow them to get their increases, because many of us are doing more with less and getting paid less. Many of our members are retiring and leaving the ranks, leaving the CSU, and then those of us who are left behind have to carry on and do extra work. So please do what you can to allow our members to get their IRPs. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now invite Neil Jacqueline, Rocky Sanchez, Ricardo Uc, and Susan Smith.
Neil, are you passing? Neil is passing.
Thank you.
Good morning. Rocky Sanchez, Bargaining Unit 7 Chair for CSUEU, and I want to bring up what I had brought up in the last Board of Trustees meeting, and that is the question about surveillance cameras coming to the campuses. Last time I talked about wanting a system-wide policy rather than doing the individual campuses, because we have discovered that some campuses, although they will do a preliminary meeting, have refused to actually bargain or meet over this issue, logically and ethically. Instead, they choose to insist that this is the way it is. And now I am requesting again a system-wide policy over surveillance cameras, and that system-wide policy be the ceiling and not the floor. Because if you make it the floor, these campuses will do what they wish to do and get away with it. Just like they're doing with the IRPs, this is what they're doing. We still have their policies on 4 different campuses that are doing what they wish to do and have not bargained over this in the meet and confer process. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ricardo Uc. I'm the Vice Chair, Bargaining Unit Council, Unit 9 for CSUEU. I wanted to talk to you about 3 topics. One is the increasing training, awareness, and information about the active shooter. There's growing concern worldwide, across the nation, and on each campus. the news is so fast to get to us almost instantaneously as it's happening. As an example, at Cal Poly, Chief Hughes gave a training seminar. And even though they were having technical difficulties with the electronic equipment, he was able to deliver a very good message. As an example, out of the 300 people that attended, while they were having technical difficulties, you could hear a pin drop. That's how attentive the audience was. And that's why I'm asking for all campuses to make these training areas more possible. We believe in keeping the entire campus community safe, and this is one venue in doing it. My thanks to George Hughes. The next issue is contracting out. In some cases, it is an emergency, and that's what it was intended for. But in a lot of cases, and a growing amount of time, it's taken away work from the regular worker, the full-time worker, and it is, and we see it by growing in length and in budget. One of the good things about having employees do the work is that we run through a background check. So some of these companies that come in, you don't know who they're bringing in for whatever kind of work they're doing. The last topic is a very difficult one, and we've talked about it before. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have Susan Smith, Jennifer Egan, David Bradfield.
Hello, Susan Smith, Vice President for Representation from Cal State Fullerton. Recently, I've reviewed my comments to you over speaking the past 4 years, and the one theme that comes across that I speak to you about frequently is IRPs, in-range progressions. And I'm mindful of a phrase I heard recently that says, I can explain it to you over and over, but I can't make you understand it. So I'm hoping today that maybe I can make you understand it a little better. Sometimes we try new things and they just don't work. And perhaps what we need to do is return to the past, to things that did work. And an example I'll bring to you is, and I'm probably dating myself here, new math. New math didn't work. It was an epic fail, and we had to return to the old ways of teaching math. In 1999, you imposed this open salary range upon us and gave us other ways to move through the ranks, performance-based increases, in-range progressions, MSIs. Epic fail. 15 years later, most of our employees have not reached the mid-range of the salary. Perhaps it's time to go back to the past, back and return steps to our employees, and perhaps combine them with some of the new ways to see if we can't make progress in having a compensation system that actually works for all of us. I hope that we can make that happen. We will begin bargaining in 11 short months. It's coming up really fast. I echo my colleague Ricardo's comments about outsourcing our work. Please stop outsourcing our work. We have a right to the work. Don't use convenience as a means to get our work done. I'd also like to offer my support to our sister union, RO3, the faculty unit, not just because we have a Me Too clause. It's to support the principle of unionism and what unions bring to all of us who work for the CSU, and for all of you, unions have brought value. Also, as you honor fallen colleagues, I'd like to honor a fallen colleague of ours, our former chair of Bargaining Unit 7 from Cal Poly SLO, Michael Brandt, who recently passed away. And as per usual, go Titans. My congratulations to our dance team who just brought home their 15th title. And yes, dance is a sport. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Egan. I'm the president of the... All right, I'm going to start over. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Egan. I'm president of the California Faculty Association. Also addressing the body from CFA today are my colleagues David Bradfield, Cecil Canton, Dee Dee Wills, and Iris Smith. Here we are again. We want to talk about compensation for faculty and putting money into the classroom and the only compensation issues on the board's agenda are executive compensation. Again. You know, I'm trained in philosophy, and I always like to think that what Jürgen Habermas calls the forceless force of a better reason will always prevail. I like debate, and I'm usually not at a loss for words. But we've been presenting the case for minimally decent salary increases for faculty for almost 2 years now. Chancellor White, you don't even show enough respect for the faculty to provide us with substantive reasons for why you won't provide such minimally decent salary increases. We just hear the repeated vague phrases about being fiscally responsible and having other spending priorities. This is not a simple difference of opinion where we can disagree and go our separate ways. We say 5, you say 2, you say take it, we say no. You, Chancellor White, have the power to affect our lives and make things right, but you lack the will and commitment to do so. It seems as though there are no arguments that would persuade you. We are not naysayers, as you have suggested. We are trying to defend ourselves against your disinvestment in the CSU, your disinvestment in your employees, your disinvestment in our students, and your disrespect of our work. We have argued with you and your representatives at the bargaining table, in the media, here at the board, and on behalf of the faculty, I am tired and fed up. Faculty were hopeful that your chancellorship would signal a real change from the Charlie Reid era. Instead, though you say nicer things about students and faculty, your actions cannot possibly make us think that you are sincere. You sound like you're on our side, the side of the faculty, staff, and students, and our families. But your actions undercut your rhetoric, and I just don't know what to say anymore. Thank you.
So we have, thank you. We have David Bradfield, Cecile Canton, Dorothy, Dee Dee Willis.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? We truly love our students and the work that we all do, but all that love can't pay the rent. 2% won't do. Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
We're committed to our students and support them day and night. If you fail to understand our worth, there's gonna be a fight. Tell me
now, which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
We know that in the CSU the wages are so poor that faculty, staff, and students are left to beg for more.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? At UC they get raises and in the community colleges too, while we only get a pittance here in the CSU.
Yeah.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
Chancellor White tells us to trust him, that he will make things right, but his failure to be responsible is leading to this fight.
Yeah.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
Board members must have the courage to finally take a stand and ensure that your employees aren't suffering in this land. Come on, tell me.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
We pushed hard in Sacramento and they gave you a lot more cash. But even when good times return, you always put us last.
Yeah.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
Cal State administrators live high on the hog, while faculty face a life of debt or leave for another job.
Come on.
Woo!
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
We're tired of false compassion. We're tired of your lies. The faculty, staff, and students are really organized. Tell me.
Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
My mother was a teacher, and I'm a teacher's child. I'm standing with my union. Your actions have us riled.
Yeah. Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? This is a fight for all of us. It's a fight for the middle class. If it can't be made right soon, then we will leave en masse. Yeah. Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? We're sending you a message. We hope it's loud and clear. A storm is coming and a strike is very near. Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you? Make some noise now. Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now?
All right. All right, I believe, well, just one second. Okay, so I just want to make sure, I think that covers all the speakers that were scheduled. I think there's one, oh, Carl Kimberlin of the SETC United Business Manager. Is he still here?
I have to follow that, really?
I know.
How do I?
I'm
I was
sure
nervous,
you'll do
I was
fine.
nervous
Thank
before. My name is Carl Kimberlin. I'm the business manager for State Employees Trades Council United. I'm here to acknowledge and give thanks to John Schwarbrick, Sean Holland, Ed Grobe, and the rest of their bargaining committee for really coming to the table with an open mind and not just hearing us, but listening to our concerns. And it was refreshing. I was involved in the last negotiations, and I can tell you this went a lot smoother. Ms. Lamb spoke earlier that it was timely, 11 months, and normally that doesn't happen. So I appreciate your efforts as well with our bargaining team. I also wanted to acknowledge, I've been coming to the Board of Trustees now for about 3 years, and you never see me up here because I'm not that public speaker type. But I've noticed that over the last year and a half, there's been more of an emphasis on our infrastructure and the repair and maintenance of our infrastructure. I would like to acknowledge Ms. Vi San Juan for her efforts in that. We can't stop though. We really have to continue because it's a problem. It really is a problem. But I see we're heading the right direction, so I acknowledge the trustees for that. I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my campus, my president here. I'm a carpenter at California State University, Los Angeles, 15 years, a proud employee of the system. Mr. Covino came, and he was a breath of fresh air. No disrespect to our past president, but he heard and he listened to our concerns. And I understand you don't get the accolades or you don't hear it, but you're hearing it from me. We appreciate your efforts. That's really all I have to say. I just appreciate everything that you're doing for us. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your feedback with us and for being here today. And I would like now to thank all the speakers that came forward, shared their voice with us today. It's very helpful, so thank you for that. With that, I'll pass it back to Ms. Lamb.
You just need to call the vote, Madam Chair.
Oh, so thank you for that reminder. I think I was distracted by the song. It was catchy. Let's say what it is. Okay, so the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with bargaining unit 6, which is the State Employees Trades Council United, is an action item before the Committee on Collective Bargaining. And again, just as a reminder, only committee members may vote at this time. So may I have a motion?
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, any discussion before all in favor? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? With that, then the action item ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with bargaining unit 6, the State Employees Trade Council United, is approved. With nothing further before the committee, we are adjourned. Chair Monville.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Trustee Norton, will you please convene the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds?
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds. Today's consent agenda consists of the minutes of the November 17th, 2015 committee meeting and 2 action items. Would any committee member wish to remove either item from today's consent agenda for separate consideration? If no, may I have a motion to approve the items listed on the consent agenda?
Move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved. That concludes today's agenda. The meeting of the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds is adjourned.
Thank you, Trustee Norton. So we are now going to transition into the state of the CSU address. What I would like to do is Dr. Kaminsky with us? Perfect. I just didn't want to surprise you and call on you and not have you ready to go. So I'm happy to turn the floor over for a special presentation, the 2016 State of the California State University. Today we have a special guest introduction, hence for my earlier question, Professor of Astronomy at Sonoma State University and the Chair of the Physics and Astronomy Department, and a 2016 Wong Family Excellence Award recipient, Dr. Lynn Kaminsky. Dr. Kaminsky.
Thank you, Chair Monville. For the past 30 years, it's been my tremendous privilege to educate the students of the California State University while advancing human knowledge and understanding alongside my faculty colleagues. I'm honored to be among my excellent peers receiving the Wong Award and extremely honored to be here today. An advantage of being part of the CSU system is knowing that from San Diego to Humboldt, I am working alongside 47,000 colleagues committed to the same educational mission. And I am proud to say that the person representing us on the state and national level is Chancellor Tim White. Having pursued his higher education from Diablo Valley Community College, Fresno State, Cal State East Bay, and UC Berkeley, and as the first in his family to earn a college degree, Dr. White's student experience represents the best of the CSU. He brings a fresh perspective to his role as chancellor, as his understanding of the CSU's mission is both broad and deep. It is this mission that attracted me and many of my colleagues to the university, and it is why I am confident of the strength of our university system, now and for generations to come. With that, I'm extremely pleased to introduce Chancellor White and the 2016 State of the California State University.
Well, thank you, Professor Kaminsky, and we will hear more about this wonderful professor and her exemplary colleagues later today during the Wong Awards ceremony that we have at the end of our business day. But I want to briefly acknowledge her tremendous accomplishments at this moment. She is indeed a leading educator and researcher, as well as a founder and director of Sonoma State's Education and Public Outreach Group, a partnership with public schools and community colleges to develop tools that better prepare students in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. She's also a passionate advocate for women in aerospace, beginning with engaging young women, indeed girls, in the STEM fields early in their education. Professor Kaminsky lives the principle of seeking and achieving excellence by being inclusive and by having high expectations of herself, her students, and all around her. So thank you again, Lynn, for all you've done and continue to advance the field of physics and astronomy and the CSU. You've empowered our students and your fellow faculty. Thank you. The State of the Unity of the University is an opportunity to pause and reflect, to think on the year that has passed and the year ahead. So today I really have three goals in mind. The first is to reaffirm what I believe is a core principle of the university, and that is achieving excellence through inclusivity. Secondly, I'd like to celebrate our shared successes of 2015 and preview the future challenges and opportunities that I think are in front of us in this calendar year. Professor Kaminsky might tell you, as would I, that as scientists, one often begins by defining terms to ensure a shared understanding. So what is inclusive excellence? Our higher education colleagues spend a lot of time thinking about this, and much of that focus is on the process, recognizing a university's success depends on valuing, engaging, and including a rich diversity of campus voices. And I believe that this focus on inclusive excellence in our academic and our operational programs, along with informing our policy discussions and planning processes, is the way we successfully meet the growing demands of a global, pluralistic society. Yet the words inclusive excellence also intimates, they suggest something more profound. Inclusive excellence is the empowerment of achieving success through quality matched with opportunity. And we have much to celebrate in our successes of this last year, successes that in many ways defied conventional wisdom of what was possible, successes made by the work of all of us. For example, we again broke records of philanthropic gifts received, with $315 million in new non-state resources supporting scholarships in academics, research, libraries, athletics, and many other vital areas. While the top line number gets the headlines, my favorite part of the report are the donor stories. Stories like that of Bruce Johnson, who marked his mother's passing by continuing her legacy of generosity, adding to the gift that she had established in his father's name, while setting up another gift annuity for the creation of a music scholarship. Now, Bruce knew that a scholarship at Cal State Dominguez Hills would benefit first-generation college students, like his mother, a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Mexico who attended Los Angeles City College. Bruce, like Professor Kaminsky, is empowering inclusive excellence. Additionally, the CSU fulfilled another goal last year by officially surpassing our target set for the Graduation Initiative 2015, where the goal for freshman students was to increase six-year graduation rates from the baseline by 8 percentage points. Now, we surpassed this goal, graduating record numbers of students as we achieved a nearly 11 percentage point improvement for a total of 57% earning their degrees in 6 years or less, the highest in the CSU's history. Stated another way, we bested our own goal by a third. And not only did we exceed our 6-year graduation rate goals, we also reached a record 4-year graduation rate of 19% for the students who started with us in 2011. To put this in context, the improvement in these graduation rates meant that we graduated approximately 5,500 more students than we otherwise would have. This is comparable to the same number of bachelor's degrees earned by last year's class at Sacramento State. Now, this is tremendous progress, and it is a good sign of things to come with Graduation Initiative 2025, which you may recall was launched last year at this time in the State of the CSU address. However, these 4- and 6-year rates are calculated by federal standards that assess only first-time, full-time entering students. This approach can lead to inappropriate conclusions as it leaves out the grit and successes of over half of our students today. So many students with work, family, and community obligations who cannot take 15 credits per semester. We simply must and will be inclusive of these students going forward. And a final example of our success in 2015 is that the CSU community stood together, including leadership from the California State Student Association, the Academic Senate, the Alumni Council, and our faculty and staff unions, strengthening the resolve of California's elected leaders as they stood with us. And as a result, and as you know, CSU received its first full budget request in a decade, funding enrollment growth, critical investments in faculty and staff positions and pay, while beginning to chip away at critical infrastructure needs. Now, importantly to recognize, this fully funded budget still does not bring us back to pre-recession levels. That said, it was a significant accomplishment and a testament to a united effort for which I am truly thankful, and I call on us again this year to repeat. As trustees, you directed $38 million of the state's new investment to student success and completion initiatives. And here's a small sample of how those dollars were spent. At Humboldt State University, a portion of those dollars was used to expand the Academic and Career Advising Center. In fact, every Humboldt student within the next year or two will be assigned a professional staff member as an advisor during their first 2 years of college. Cal Poly Pomona expanded the Poly Transfer Program, partnering with local community colleges to connect prospective and incoming transfer students to academic and student support services while building a transfer-friendly culture. The Channel Islands launched the University Experience Associates, a mentor program partnering high-achieving Channel Islands students with freshmen and transfer peers. These 3 programs and dozens like them across the system will be critical to reaching the goals of Graduation Initiative 2025. They demonstrate that the work of our excellent staff and students complements the work of our excellent faculty, and by investing in faculty and in staff and students, we generate the conditions for success. And we continue to invest in our faculty as a critical factor in achieving our shared goals. Last year, the total CSU faculty levels reached all-time highs as we continued tenured track searches. In fact, the CSU hired 742 new tenure track faculty in the 14-15 academic year, the most of any year since before the recession. I meet many exemplary faculty members during my campus visits. Professor Naranyan is one, who co-directs Cal State Monterey Bay's Computer Science Degree in 3 Years program, CS in 3. It duly enrolls students at Monterey Bay and nearby Hartnell College from day one, eliminating one of the biggest barriers to success that community college transfer students face and providing enhanced opportunities for success to students of the historically underserved Salinas Valley. These programs at Humboldt and Pomona, at Channel Islands and Monterey Bay demonstrate inclusive excellence. They combine opportunity with quality that leads to success. And these programs exemplify what has been already achieved and the platform we are building for the years ahead on all of our campuses. We are also continuing our efforts to ensure students thrive in environments that are conducive to learning. Indeed, you should expect to hear more in 2016 about efforts that we launched last year, including action on Title IX protections from sexual abuse and aggression, and support for mental health issues, including programs such as the Red Folder, which is an innovative digital tool to help faculty and staff recognize symptoms of student distress and identify resources to support student mental health. Now, to ensure the progress we are making is not lost in future years, we must provide a broad base of resources for our academic and student support programs. And that is what you will find in the Sustainable Financial Model Task Force draft report that we'll be discussing at this meeting. It reflects deep thinking on how we continue to provide the platform on which our faculty and staff and students build and succeed. This report identifies potential ways to best leverage the resources we do have, whether through enhanced investment strategies, better economies of scale, or the careful use of partnerships. And I appreciate the effort of the trustees, the students, faculty, presidents, provosts, business officers, student affairs vice presidents who contributed to this forward-looking, forward-thinking, forward-leaning report. I also want to thank the system staff who supported this effort. It was a monumental task to incorporate input from numerous task force members, open forums around the state, and stakeholder consultations. You know, universities are institutions that are meant to stand for generations, and indeed the CSU has. Long enough to have a chancellor who was once a student, and longer still if we count the 158 years that San Jose State has existed. Proudly, I see a new generation emerging. However, there's a conflict between old and new concepts of social justice, and the future holds many uncertainties. Some of that uncertainty is understandable. After tragic events, as we've seen on college campuses throughout the world, and in Paris and the San Bernardino attacks, it is easy to become distrustful about the world around us. And I mourn with our campuses of Long Beach, of San Bernardino, of Pomona and Fullerton, as well as my previous home, UC Riverside, for the student and the many alumni we lost recently. And even for a story that ends positively, like that of Sacramento State student Anthony Sadler with his two friends who subdued a gunman on a Paris-bound train in August, it is still easy to fixate on what might have happened. As a result of both our size and our nature, as the country's leading comprehensive university, CSU students, faculty, staff, and alumni are in the midst of these world events. And I believe we must make a choice in times of upheaval. Do we give into the chaos or do we rise above? The CSU rises above. And for inspiration, I looked at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Last year marked the 50th anniversary of the Watts Rebellion, and those aware of that piece of history can attest to the close connection between the rebellion and the placement of the campus in Carson. The campus was specifically moved and located to serve the African American communities that were among California's most underserved and neglected in the 1960s. I view that as confirmation that the CSU's core principle is inclusive excellence. It shapes our history. It is part of our DNA. President Obama, during his State of the Union address, referenced another point of triumph from that earlier era, the moon landing, a defining moment of shared commitment in American history. The state of California and the California State University is in need of its own shared commitment that joins us together to meet the imperative of our time. And our ongoing graduation initiative is a vital effort toward this imperative. Yet, these goals, however noble, are only steps in the right direction. Our goal, our moon, must be a quality bachelor's degree for every Californian willing and able to earn it, with an achievement gap of 0. That means the same opportunity to succeed for every student. That is how we empower the disenfranchised. That is how we achieve both inclusivity and excellence. But to do so, we must recognize the realities of where we are today. Our president said of the early years of the space race, quote, "When the Russians beat us into space, we didn't deny Sputnik was up there. We didn't argue about the science or shrink our research and development budget. We built a space program." Well, the CSU has long acknowledged the existence of an achievement gap, but we should not be and are not satisfied that only half of our undergraduates from underserved communities graduate within 60 years, within 6 years. That is simply not inclusive. Nor can the state ignore the clarion calls of the Public Policy Institute of California, among other experts, that project massive shortfalls in the educated workforce in the years ahead. An undereducated society is not a society poised for excellence, but rather poised for greater inequality, less hope, more disillusionment, and proliferation of social problems. Now, a graduation achievement gap of 0 is possible. It has been accomplished, and we have CSU campuses that have closed that gap. But I do not hold illusions that taking this step as a system is easy. Rather, I'm acknowledging Sputnik. I'm acknowledging that empowering historically underserved, low-income, first-generation, and English as a second language communities demands more of our time, attention, and resources. It requires our best thinkers and our best doers. The CSU has much of what we need to reach our destination. We have engaged students, an excellent faculty, and a first-rate support team. But for us to succeed, we also need the people of California committed to our goal. To achieve inclusive excellence, we must all work together to accomplish 3 objectives. First, a continuous pipeline from preschool to a bachelor's degree, with state support for growth with quality at all levels along that pipeline. Second, better prepared high school graduates and transfer students who are ready to succeed at the university level. And third, readily available resources and timely interventions for current and future students attending the CSU. The 3 objectives I just mentioned are critical to closing the achievement gap and also to hitting our overall goals for 6- and 4-year graduation rates, as well as achieving our metrics for transfer students. In fact, the intersection of the steps to achieve these multiple goals is intentional. And the only way for CSU and California to continue to make consequential progress on any of our goals is to empower those who have been disenfranchised and provide those previously excluded from quality educational opportunities with the tools needed to earn their degree. It is hard to overstate the importance of California achieving our goals. Not only does California have the largest state population and the largest economy, but our changing demographics foreshadow changes across the country. What we learn in addressing the needs of our students will become the blueprint for those states that may be a generation or 2 behind us. The commitments we are making will therefore influence generations to come, well beyond even the considerable scope and reach of our alumni. Yes, we are reaching for the moon, not for ourselves alone, but for all who watch from afar and who follow. This outcome will be achieved only if all of us reconsider our effort and our approach. We will need to change the input in order to change the output. I ask us all to go about our specific tasks and responsibilities differently, to further enhance a welcoming community in physical, intellectual, and emotional ways. I ask faculty to rethink the curriculum, especially general education, and to ask the question if we are informing enough about difference, power, and discrimination. I ask those who appoint search and hiring committees to appoint people who reflect the rich diversity of our students and to hire the best out of a rich and diverse pool of applicants to add to our cadre of distinguished, insightful, and passionate faculty and staff. This is not about coddling our students. It's about challenging our students to stimulate their intellectual and professional growth and development, and also provide the support and encouragement so the global leaders of tomorrow emerge from the halls of this amazing university. Now, I don't dispute that we are in interesting times, but these moments of tumult are when we test our mettle. These are the touchstone eras, and great opportunity for us to shape the future lies alongside and embedded in the challenges. I look around this room and see represented those who will answer today's challenges with opportunities. I am optimistic because of you. I am motivated and I am inspired because of you. Our students, whose voices speak loudest and clearest about the imperative of our time, our faculty, who are closest to the students and most directly shape their opportunities, our staff, administrators, and trustees who ensure that students and faculty are supported with the necessary tools, facilities, and resources. Our alumni, who serve as our greatest champions and who represent the mission of our university on a daily basis. Our business and community partners, who supply an added margin of excellence and serve as our advocates. And our elected leaders, whose decisions determine how our state and nation's resources are prioritized and where this generation chooses to direct its public effort. This call to action is for the entire CSU community. To reach the moon, we must each do our part to promote the very principle that makes CSU a leader in the world today, the principle of achieving excellence through inclusivity. It is our shared responsibility to chart the course which closes the achievement gap that enables any Californian with the will and the intellect to reach the moon's sea of tranquility, to earn a degree at the CSU. And it is also our responsibility to act now. If not the CSU to lead America, then who? If not the people in this room and the 3.5 million people we represent, then who? The answer is clear. It is the people of the CSU aspiring and achieving together that enable a better world of graduating the global leaders of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Chancellor, thank you for thought-provoking and challenging remarks, and I know everyone in your call is ready to stand up to the challenge. So with that, the board will adjourn for lunch, and we will reconvene at 12:30.
This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is the California State University Office of the Chancellor's live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly. This is